Hi, everyone. So continuing our topic of complex numbers, we want to take what we've learned about complex and the whole I squared thing and the square root over under, like a negative underneath the square root sign, and how that integrates with our solving of quadratics. Now keep in mind that the negative underneath the square root sign is going to indicate that it does not cross the x-axis if we're talking about the graphs. All right, so but we now have a representation of this no solution concept. All right, so think of it as, what does this do for us? Okay, so let's take a look at doing it by square roots. So we're going to solve for x squared. Okay, we're going to divide by 2. And then we're going to square root both sides. So we get the square root of negative 16. Okay, we're going to take out the I, negative 1. Okay. So the square root of negative 1 is I, square root of 16 is 4. So we get 4I, don't forget the plus and minus. Okay. All right, so just to show you that, okay, let's do this. Let's use our calculator here for a second. Okay. All right, so if I wanted to go to y equals, and I put in the 2x squared plus 32, okay, graph, and I want to be in regular, so standard, okay? All right, so notice it's not crossing the axis anywhere. It's opening up. Okay, it's all the way up here, right? All right, so we're nowhere near the x-axis. We're up at 32. We know that's a translation, up 32. Vertical stretch, no, compression of a factor of 2. Okay, so it tells us that when we solve, we get plus or minus 4i, that we're not going to be intersecting the x-axis anywhere. So it's going to be a solution graphically. It just tells it doesn't intersect the x-axis. All right, so we're going to do this one. We're going to subtract the 15, square root both sides. Okay, we're going to take out the I. Can't do anything with the square root of 15, so I'm just going to leave it. All right, why don't you pause the video and try 2 and 4 with solving by taking the square root. All right, let's check our answers and see how we did. All right, so I have plus or minus 2i for number 2. And plus or minus 3i for number 4. All right. Now, we're going to move on to completing the square. So we're going to take our complex ideas and use the completing the square process. Sorry. All right, so we're going to do this process. First thing we're going to do is move the 20 over to the other side. Going to leave our space. Okay. We're going to fill in our blanks. There's nothing to divide by because x squared already has a coefficient of 1. So on the side, I'm going to put negative 4. We're going to divide it in half, divide it by 2, and square it. So negative 2 squared is 4. And that's what's going in my blank, plus 4, plus 4. All right, we're going to factor. Okay, so we get negative 16. When we square root both sides, okay, so we're going to get x minus 2 equals plus or minus 4i, and we're going to add the 2. Okay, so there's our solution, 2 plus or minus 4i. And again, graphically, when we get to the negative 16, we know that this graph is not going to intersect the x-axis. All right, let's try this one down here. All right, so we're going to subtract the 46. So that makes that negative 41, I believe. Yes. Okay, we're going to fill in our blank. Don't forget both sides of the equation. So we're going to take, oh, I forgot my m. So take the negative 12, divide by 2, quantity squared. So that's negative 6 squared, which is 36. So we're going to add 36, add 36. Oh, excuse me, guys. Okay, that's negative 5. So we're going to factor. Okay, we're going to square root both sides. Okay, we'll take out the I. And add the 6. Okay. All right. Questions there. All right. Let's check it graphically again. So, all right. Let's go back to our y equals, clear that out. All right. So we get x squared. I know it says m, but we're going to use x. Okay, and I'm going to do plus 41. Okay, because we can't do like plus 46, then equals 5. Okay, all right, so here's our graph. Notice that we're over, okay, 6. That's pretty good. All right, so here's our graph. All right, notice it does not intersect the x-axis. All right, so we're getting this idea that what these look like. All right, why don't you try 2 and 4 using the completing the square process. Okay, so let's take a look at 2. I got negative 4 plus or minus I squared roots of 6. And then 4, I divided everybody by 2 first. This one got a little nasty, sorry. Divide everybody by 2. Okay, half of 3 squared gives you 9/4. Add the 9/4 to both sides. Do some math. Negative 5 plus 9/4. I got negative 11/4. Okay, square root both sides. Took out the I. You got negative 3 over 2 plus or minus I squared, so 11. Okay. All right, so our last group would be involving quadratic formula. Factoring does not work with I. All right, so you can't factor anything, there are no factors. Let's say there's no factors of 10 that add up to negative 3. Positive 10 that add up to negative 3, so it doesn't work. Okay. All right, so we're going to go x equals the opposite of negative 3 plus or minus the square root. Negative 3 squared minus 4. A is 2, c is 5, all over 2 times 2. Okay, so we're going to get 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 40 all over 4. Okay, so 3 plus or minus square root of negative 31 all over 4. So x equals 3 plus or minus I square root of 31. Whole thing over 4. Okay, we can't do anything with the square root of 31. It's prime. Okay. All right, and then this last one, for this one rather, x equals opposite of negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4. A is 1, c is 5, all over 2 times 1. So we're going to get 4 plus or minus the square root. Negative 4 squared is 16 minus 20 all over 2. All right, so we get 4 plus or minus, plus or minus the square root of negative 4 all over 2. So 4 plus or minus 2i all over 2. Now, you can simplify this if you choose to do so. Like if you take out a GCF of 2, and then these 2's cancel. So 2 plus or minus I, if you choose to do that. That's something we're going to work on. So that's what our x is going to equal. And again, not going to cross the x-axis. All right, why don't you pause the video and try problems 2 and 4. Okay, let's see how we did. Okay, so here we have 1 plus or minus I square roots of 23 all over 6. And this last one, -7 plus I squared roots of 15 all over 2. Again, I could make a mistake, so if something different, please let me know. All right, guys. Hopefully helps you wrap your head around the I and how these would be problems where the graph does not cross the x-axis. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again real soon.